Happy Tuesday, everybody. 19th hole back at you after a week off, as we will be doing. Hello. Hope you all had a great Memorial Day weekend. We had terrible weather here. It rained and was like 50 degrees Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So no golfing, no barbecuing, nothing like that. Connor, how was your Memorial Day, man?
Awesome. Far too much drinking, far too much golf, and way too little asleep.
That indoor league thing you do is really neat.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And out here, we need stuff like that. I mean, it gets so damn cold so many months out of the year that you got to have some inside facilities. So it's a lot of fun, though. It's pretty cool. It's relatively accurate, too, which is surprising.
So can you play any course?
There's God, I think there's probably 25 of them. Most of them are real courses, and then there's some made up ones. But when I sent you that picture, we were playing Pebble Beach. So
oh, cool.
Yeah, so
very cool. Well, this week on the show, we are going to talk about Bulleit and Bulleit Rye Bourbon, which happens to be one of my personal favorites. Their rye is probably one of my top 5 bourbons, and I know it's an inexpensive one, and that sounds weird, but I really love it. I'm weird, I guess. I like cheap things. Connor is going to be tasting the original straight recipe Bulleit bourbon. And then we're going to get into the Memorial Tournament this weekend that is at a Muirfield Village Golf Club in Dublin, Ohio. So that's what we've got on the slate tonight. Connor, you want to tell us about the bourbons a little bit real quick?
Well, yeah. So we've got, like Nate said, I'm going to be doing the straight. He's going to be doing the rye, both of which are relatively inexpensive. As a matter of fact, today when I was out shopping around, we've got it as cheap as about $25 on the shelf. Both are, I believe, 90 proof, if memory serves me right.
The rye is 95.
95. Okay, yeah. So the rye is a little hotter.
Yep.
And then I know, Nate, you got a bunch of history you wanted to share with the folks.
I do, and I will get to that as soon as I'm done pouring my first little taste of my delicious Bulleit rye, which is what this show's all about. Cheers.
Cheers, buddy.
Yeah, so it's actually kind of interesting. Did a little reading up on the distillery today. The original mash bill was first developed in 1830 by Augustus Bulleit, so that's where they got the name Bulleit, if you've ever wondered. He continued to produce that original mash bill, which was 2/3 corn and 1/3 rye, until 1860 when he died. They continued producing that up until 1987, when his great-great-grandson Augustus, or his great-great-grandson Tom Bulleit, who now runs the distillery, started producing a new mash bill, which was 68% corn, 28% rye, and 4% malted barley, which is what we're having today. No real super special history on the distillery. Nothing about the buildings is really all that neat. They do maintain 2 distilleries, and one of them, the rye, is actually produced in Indiana, which I found to be kind of interesting. So,
and I don't know if the rye, I know at one point the rye was actually sourced from a grandparent distillery. It wasn't done in-house. I don't know if that's still true now.
It is not true now. It's not true now.
So I think that's part of having the facility out that way, though. I believe where they were sourcing it from is in that neck of the woods.
Okay. I mean, that would make sense. Why else would you have a distillery in Indiana? That's for a national. I mean, it just seems kind of weird. One other thing, they didn't start producing their rye until 2011. So it's a relatively new product for them.
Yeah, and their rye, as far as we've talked about it. I'm not a huge rye fan, but as far as ryes go, that is a pretty solid one, especially at the price.
Right.
One thing that I bumped into as I was kind of brushing up on Bulleit a little bit was there's this kind of folklore almost about what happened to Augustus. Apparently at one point he was traveling down, I think it was New Orleans, if I read it right, and he loaded up a bunch of whiskey onto a boat and never made it to the port. Just disappeared, never heard from again.
Really? I've never heard that. Interesting.
Yeah,
very interesting.
It was on their history page, and then the more that I poked around about it, then you start getting all these weird offshoot stories, and people are like, "Oh, I'm his 5th generation grandkid, and that's only kind of true, and this is more the story." And so
interesting.
Yeah, so you got time to kill. It's actually, I went down a rabbit hole on the internet.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Those are the kind of fun things you do when you're talking about whiskey and distilleries and bourbons, and it's such an old spirit here in this country that it's interesting, some of the histories of distilleries. But all right, enough about that. Let's get to the fun part. let's drink some bourbon. So, Connor, why don't you start us off with the regular, the traditional, if you will, bourbon?
Yeah, so the regular is about 90 proof, like I was saying. I couldn't find exact age statements. One thing that they're pretty adamant about is that they don't bottle it till it's quote ready, right? So as they're tasting it as it's aging, they kind of have an idea in their head of what they want it to taste like, what the finished product should be, and that's when it goes to a bottle. So so I thought that's kind of nice to know that somebody is still physically like tasting the product that's getting to you and ensuring that it's right. So with that being said, the thing that I think about this one is kind of interesting is you get a fair amount of the rye even in the like base bourbon. And again, for me, like rye is one of those things that when it hits my palate, like I almost fixate on it. So with this particular one, like if you like rye or you like some more of that earthy, peppery, a little more of the spicy, this would be a really good bourbon to try out, because it's, again, you're going to have a lot of the typical flavors that you get from a regular bourbon, where you're getting your charred oak, your vanillas, your caramels, your toffees.
Right.
Like you get all of that, but then there's a little more like little higher notes on some of those, like those rye pieces. So
gotcha.
So I, again, we've talked a lot about my palate being a little more geared towards wheated. And so this is for me a polar opposite. So for the people watching us that are like, yeah, I don't like wheat, or, do something that isn't wheated, here, this one's a good one. I mean, It's a solid rye profile on this one. So,
I mean, it was my hiking bourbon for a long time. Go on some of those early morning hikes and fill up a flask with Bulleit. And my brother and I, and I can't remember it now, it was probably like 10 years ago, we came up with a jingle for Bulleit bourbon.
Are you going to tell me you're going to sing it? I
don't remember it. Honest to God, don't remember it.
You can't throw it out there and then not have it ready. You can't. Well,
that's the best part. It's a really cool story, and you can think it was whatever it was. Like, let your imagination run wild, because I don't remember.
I'm making you sing it on a future show.
If I can remember, I'll talk to Zach about it and see if I can figure it out. So kind of what you were talking about with traditional Bulleit, I think that's part of why I like it, because you get that like spiciness and pepperiness of the rye. And then I found Bulleit rye, and like I was in heaven. I'm a big rye fan anyway. Most of what I'm getting out of it is pretty heavy pepper spice to it. A little bit of like, this doesn't sound weird, but like a cardamom, kind of a little. Nothing really too sweet, maybe like a slight touch of like a honey-ish on the like very back, but I kind of have to search for that a little bit. So if you don't like real like heavily peppered bourbons, I wouldn't recommend this for you. If you don't like that spice to a bourbon, I wouldn't drink it. But that's something that I love. I mean, it's one of my favorite things about most of the bourbons I end up gravitating towards is they've got some of that to them.
I think, I think with yours too, kind of to your point, like you're going to get probably a little more subtle sweetness. It'd be more the honeys or dark chocolates or, that type of flavor where, you really aren't going to be getting as much of that prevalent vanilla, caramel, brown sugar. So yeah, they're both really good spirits. They both make good cocktails. They both hold up. It's a great price point.
It's a fantastic. I mean, I got this for $15, which for a rye, I know it's only a 3.75, but like that's good for a rye. Yep.
I got the minis today.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do when you don't have time to get to somewhere that has the full. I totally get it.
And I had a rough weekend, so I have an excuse.
Well, it was Memorial Day weekend. I mean, you were supposed to have a rough weekend. Isn't that what we do?
I think the whole town knows I had a good weekend.
Hey, you're still technically single for like another month and a half. Well, 2 months.
Hell no.
3.
No.
No, I mean, you're engaged, but for everybody who doesn't know, Connor is getting married soon.
I am getting married.
So congratulations on the nuptials. We got your invitation today.
Hey, all right.
Yeah, they're very classy. I love it. I love the font.
One of the many things that I'm not a part of. My
Of
fiance,
course.
my fiance does all that stuff, and then she's just like, "Well, I sent these." I'm like, "Oh, well, good thing I like it, I guess."
See, when Jen and I planned our wedding, I mean, her and her mom did most of it, but ours was super simple. So I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. I think my dad did the invitations. We kept it easy. We were
I, I'm super thankful. One of the many things she's good at. She plans everything to a T, and like she had our wedding plan. God, dude, probably 2 weeks after we got engaged. So I mean, it's been super mellow and super easy, like no stress. So
That's nice. I mean, Jen planned ours. I think she flew out to California like end of February and we got married May 2nd. So, I mean, that was a pretty quick turnaround. But we're simple people, man. You know us.
yeah, you guys, I mean, yeah, you guys are just perfect. And so
Oh, well, thanks. You're so nice.
yeah,
But we're not here to talk about us. We're here to talk
we've
about bourbon and golf. So I am curious. So if you're watching this show or you're watching it live, you're watching it on YouTube, you're watching the replay on Periscope or on Facebook, we would like to know what bourbons you would like us to review. If you have questions about something you'd like to see us drink, DM myself, Connor, In Between Media, hit us up anywhere on any of the socials, and we would love to taste something that you guys want to taste. I mean, that's ultimately what we're here for. We want to give you good value bourbons that you can find just about anywhere, easy to get, affordable, delicious. So let us know what you want. Hit us up in the comments here, wherever. Just find us and let us know. And with that, I think it's time to move on to some golf. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump in.
So this weekend we have the Memorial Tournament at Muirfield Village in Dublin, Ohio. I'm going to let Connor talk about the course because he knows a lot more about it than I do. So Connor, tell us a little bit about this tournament and kind of tell us about the course.
Okay, so this is Jack's home course. It has recently underwent a complete renovation. So back in July, when the last time we had a tournament played on this course, they were literally ripping up the course as the players were finishing. So they've been working on it since last July. Jack really wanted the course to end up being like a full test of players, so it wouldn't be skewed to like a bomb and gouge or good scrambling, short, accurate guys. Like you kind of got to have a full, well-rounded game to be successful here. So through the renovation, added about 100 total yards to the course. It's now up to about a 7,500 yard par 72. The thing with the renovation was I've found a bunch of conflicting things, but the vast majority of holes have been redone. So at least somewhere between 12 and 15 holes have been reworked. All of those greens have been ripped up. New fresh bent grass has been put down. So they're going to be bouncy and fast. Narrowing of some of the fairways, because historically this has been a course where the fairways are really forgiving, really wide, and they've kind of tried to make an effort to narrow those down a little bit. Now, I kind of looked at some of the pictures I could find and stuff. I don't think that they're super narrow, but they have been narrowed a bit. I think the bigger concern here is really going to be that the rough sits at about 4 inches tall, so the rough's super penal. And there's water on a lot of holes, and the course itself, like I kind of alluded to, plays typically really, really fast. So, you could nail it right in the middle of a fairway and it could roll all the way through the fairway into the rough. I mean, it could look like a great drive and then all of a sudden it just, boo, see you later.
Like the most frustrating thing as a golfer to watch happen when you feel like you hit the perfect shot and it just goes whoop, whoop.
Yep. And the problem then lies in that there's a lot of trees on this course too. So if you're cutting through fairways at a rapid pace and using the trees as backstop, you're probably not going to have a good week.
Goes without saying, I think.
So really what I'm looking at is I took a good look at shots gained approach. I took a pretty good look at greens and regulation hit. I like looking at opportunities gained. Again, that's that proximity stat on your approach shots. I did overall ball striking from tee to green. I looked at fairways and regulation. And then I also, which is not typical for me, I did look at driving distance this week. I kind of wanted to get guys that I thought were trending in the right direction in terms of driving distance coupled with accuracy. So they may not be top of the chart, but they're guys that, like, as I was looking at it, are trending towards cleaning up some of the inaccuracies in their driving and are already leading in terms of actual overall distance. So
Okay.
if that all makes sense.
It does. It does.
And then, like I said, too, with it being a second shot course, I kind of looked at the proximities on the second shot, and you're really in like the low 170s to low 200s is kind of where a lot of these second shots are going to be coming from. So I did look at guys that are a little better from that distance.
Okay. So it's those guys who are good with like the middle irons, or or like a hybrid if they're carrying a hybrid.
Yeah, which more and more guys are. So yeah, when you're getting into those longer irons, that's kind of what I was looking at. Which is why when we get into my picks, that you'll see. I mean, it's guys that are handy with the irons.
Gotcha. Well, should we get into the picks?
Yeah.
Should we do it? Yeah. All right. So we're going to start with tier 1. These are our between 8,000 and wait, Connor, you tell me. You explain the tiers. These are your tiers.
Yeah. So these are 9,000 and above on DraftKings. Also, can we pull that picture back up? Why does Rory look like somebody just asked him the square root of something?
He looks a little confused. He definitely does. But hey, he's your boy and he's front and center. So there you go.
Anyways. Yeah. So jumping into my picks here. My first one is going to be Colin Morikawa. Colin Morikawa is just one of those people that's been playing well pretty much all year. As far as my modeling went, he came out number 1 overall. He's number 1 in shots gained approach, number 1 in opportunities gained, number 1 in tee to green, number 6 in fairways gained, and number 2 from the proximity, second shot proximity that we talked about. The thing that isn't great about him is he is 82nd in driving distance. So I think the scary thing about it's not scary. It's not like the guy can't hit a golf ball a long ways. He hits it farther than your average person. But I do think if this does turn into a bit of a bomb and gouge, I do think him being kind of middling as far as distance is concerned may not be a great advantage. But I trust that, especially his long irons. The guy is pretty rock solid with long irons. So if he's having to hit some longer second shots, I don't think it's going to kill him. But
well, that kind of goes to what you were saying about this course, that 175 to 200 range, second shot to get to the green. Like that seems to, what you're saying, fit him well.
Yeah, and I think if there's downsides to Morikawa, he's messing around with a new putting stroke, which I'm not in love with, but he's working hard on getting his putting together. Scrambling from time to time, he has some hiccups, but generally speaking, if you put any iron in his hand, he's a pretty solid player. So I really like him at 10-4, and some other reasons I really like him in the top tiers. I think a lot of people are going to be on Jon Rahm, Justin Thomas, probably DeChambeau,
some of the bigger names.
Yeah, and not that Morikawa isn't a big name. I mean, he definitely is making a name for himself quickly. I just think that there's going to be Jordan Spieth is going to be super popular this week. So I just don't see there being a vast difference from Colin Morikawa and paying up to somebody like Jon Rahm, Jordan Spieth. I think he has just as much win equity, and that's with the top tier, you really need the guy in a T5 or better.
Right.
So, and then kind of moving down from there, my boy Rory. Of
course.
So his stats are actually decent over the last 24 rounds, and given that he won in that stretch, that makes some sense. But he's 16th overall for approach, 25th for opportunities gained. He is 17th for tee to green overall. From the key proximity, we're looking at about 35th in the field, and then he's 5th overall for driving distance. So the big thing that worries me about Rory this week is if he hasn't figured out how to straighten out his driver yet, we're going to have some problems. So I did look at, again, he's probably what prompted me to look at the course a little closer. Is I think the fairways are large enough and forgiving enough that if he's a little wild, I don't think it's going to get him in a ton of trouble. And the rest of his game is, as we know, pretty good.
Right.
So if we can get a couple of putts and a couple of chips, and we'll be good to go with him. Then my boy Victor Hovland, been on him now for a few weeks. I think that the things about the things I love about Rory are the same things I love about Victor. Only Victor is more consistent. So
Gotcha. Well, I think you had him like tier 3 last week, didn't you?
I had him
somewhere around there.
Well, the pricing had him there. I actually had him as my pick to win. I thought.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes. I do remember. I'm sorry.
No,
yes, the pricing was tier 3 last week. Okay, so and that's interesting to make that big of a jump. Do you think it was his showing in the PGA?
No, I think it's more strength of field this week. Like,
gotcha.
And when we get into like the $8,000 range, you're going to kind of see like there's not a whole lot going on. It's some reaches, I think. But with Victor, like I said, all the things I loved about him at the PGA, I love about him here. He's a good driver of the golf ball, consistent. He's always getting close to the pin on his approach shots. He's in the top 7 for the second shot distance that we were looking at, and he's 36 in the field for fairways hit and regulation. So, what's up, Bo?
Shout out, Bo.
So I think all the things I liked about him previous, I'm just going to keep rolling with. I really do think he's rounding into form, and he's just a guy I don't want to be late to the party on, because awesome. when he hits, his popularity is going to go through the roof, and you're going to lose all your leverage. So,
would you call him your play of the week?
I don't know if I would, because there's a couple guys down lower that are cheaper that I think are pretty good plays.
All right. Well, we'll get to those guys here in a minute.
And then my last guy up in that top tier is Xander Schauffele. And I think the nice thing with Xander is I think people are going to have a lot of recency bias on him, and maybe you're going to be a little afraid to jump back on the Xander train. So I think you could probably get a little bit of leverage there. And also at the pricing, you're having to make some decisions up top, right? Like, am I going to play a 10,000 guy, or am I going to start my lineups in the 9s? So if you want to play any of the big dogs, you're probably not getting Xander into your lineup. So I think starting at Xander gives you an opportunity to do a lot of cool stuff with your lineup. And I think he has the win equity. I mean, he came out 9th overall in my modeling. He's right in the top 15 for almost all the key stats. Again, the one with him that's skewed a little bit is the fairways gained. And because I run this on a pretty recent format, like in terms of only going out about 24 rounds, I mean, the guy's got a miscut in there, and he's not exactly had stellar performances over the last few tournaments. So I think it's a little skewed. Typically speaking, he's a pretty accurate player and pretty consistent. So,
well, we'll have to see how he does this week. I like it. So let's go on to our tier 2 picks. Gotta love the graphics that Third and Short does. If you're not following at Third and Short on Twitter, you should definitely check him out. He does all of our graphics for these shows, and the things he does are they're incredible.
Man, Charlie Hoffman's hair is lethal. That is awesome.
Yeah. No, it's a great graphic. It's a fantastic graphic.
So one of the guys that I really like that I was talking about, who I'm not going to be alone on this. It's going to be a really divisive guy this week. You're going to have people that are just super fired up on him, and you're going to have people that think you just fade him and pivot to anybody else. But Charlie Hoffman for me is going to be probably in most of, if not all of my lineups. The guy is absolutely playing out of his head right now. It's been trending for several weeks. Shots gained approach, we're looking at number 2 overall. Opportunities gained, number 4 overall. Tee to green, number 2 overall. Proximity from second shot proximity, 3rd overall. Driving distance, 12th. And he's in the top 40 for fairways gained. So he's hitting the fairways, hitting the ball far. He's making the most of his second shots. It's number 2 in my model overall. I just can't poke a lot of holes in what the stats are telling me on him. I think he's as solid a play this week as you probably have. So that one, I would lean towards that, maybe being the play of the week. I like him and Colin Morikawa almost as much as each other. So those are probably the 2 that I think.
Okay. So you've got a tier 1 guy and a tier 2 guy that you're kind of even on. Interesting.
Yeah, it's with Charlie, it's just the trend. He's one of those guys that when he gets going, you can generally see a win coming. A lot of these other guys we talk about, you might have no signs of life, and then they just pop and win. With Charlie, historically, he goes on a run, and he's kind of on a run right now. So,
well, and that's the thing that's so difficult about DFS is you have to be able to factor all these things in. It's like playing Nick Foles when he's super cheap, but you know this week that he might actually go off, even though he threw 4 interceptions last week. Like, it's the same thing here. Like, you just have to know so much, and that's why you should listen to Connor, because he does all the work for you.
And again, we talk about it a lot, but the tools we use on Fantasy National, fantasynational.com, if you're not familiar with it, I know a lot of industry guys use it, but it is so easy to make these models. And quite frankly, if you're not using any kind of modeling and you're trying to play DFS golf, it's probably just not going to work out for you.
Right.
You really got to find an edge, because I don't have all these numbers stored in my head. I got to find them somewhere.
Right. Well, I think that's the thing people don't necessarily think about. If you're aiming to win money, it's worth paying a little bit of money to get the tools that will actually help you win actual money.
Well said.
And yes, Gary, that is the takeaway the whole night. Listen to what Connor says about DFS golf. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, and if only I won half as much as I profess that I have great picks, right? Anyways, I do win frequently enough. So dropping down again, this second tier is going to be the guys 7,000 or above, up to the 9,000 mark where tier 1 starts. So Charlie Hoffman, really big on him this week. Doug Gim is another guy that I've been off and on for the last, I don't know, probably 4 to 6 weeks. I think he's going to be another one that's going to be popular because of the price point, but number 5 overall in the model, top 10 and most of the key stats I looked at, and he's hitting fairways and he's right in the middle of the field in terms of driving distance. So I think Doug Gim is I'm looking at the guy above him on the driving distance. So he's in the top 10 for all the key stats with the exception of driving distance. He's a little lower on that, but the shots gained approach metric, he's super high on, and he's consistently playing from the fairway, which I think we talked about how penal the rough's going to be. I think Gim coming in from the fairway and being number 1 in the modeling for the second shot proximity, I think those two things pair up pretty nice together. So I don't need him to be hitting the ball Bryson far.
Gotcha. Bryson the brute.
Yeah. Gosh.
I can only dream of having arms his size. It would take so many steroids for me to get that big.
You know what I want to see? I want to see a pay-per-view boxing match between him and Brooks Koepka.
Dude, it might happen if you've seen some of their interactions on social media. They're ready to fight.
I love Bryson hitting him with love living rent free in your head. I was like, it's like, get him, dude. I can't stand Koepka. Anyways,
that was awesome.
So moving down the line here, Keegan Bradley is another guy that's gonna be kind of popular around the industry this week. He's number 6 in my model overall. He's got a great approach game right now. He's actually in the top 15 for all the key metrics we looked at there. He's a little sketchy from the second shot proximity range we looked at. So I'll be interested to see how he does this week in terms of the second shot, but the rest of the stats are pointing to he's a pretty solid play. The thing I like about Keegan too is that just history of playing DFS, Keegan may not get you a win and he may fully blow up on Sunday, but typically Keegan's going to give you a really solid first and second round and get through the cut. As a matter of fact, if you have betting in your state, playing Keegan Bradley as first round leader, laying a bet on that's usually a pretty solid bet. I mean, Keegan usually will come out shooting and then he kind of fades through the weekend. But as we talk about with DFS, we don't need him to stay full throttle all weekend. We just need him to get through the cut and score us some DraftKings points, and I think he can do that for us.
Man, we're giving out betting tips now too. I love it.
I'm just throwing in a couple here and there. Yeah. You know what I should have been on was the Phil Mickelson 250-1. That would have been awesome at the PGA.
Oh, man, could you imagine?
God.
Oh, what a great win. What a great win. I was so excited for Lefty, man. So excited.
Too, and that walk down 18 was so epic. That was so cool.
Yeah.
So Emiliano Griot is my last pick in this range. So I don't play Grillo a lot because he has a real propensity for being a god-awful putter. And so what's really challenging about Grillo is you'll look at him, his approach stats are good, his ball striking stats are good, driving stats are decent. And then you get into his putting stats and you're like, oh, if he could just make a putt this week. And so that's kind of where I'm sitting with him is it's 7,700. I can work him into a lineup and feel like if he could just make a couple of putts around, the rest of his stats are trending in the right direction. And I really do think he's got a shot at contending here. He's just got to find his putter. So I would be cautiously optimistic with Grillo, but he's sitting number 8 overall in my modeling. He's number 3 in approach, number 5 in opportunities gained, number 14 in tee to green. I mean, he's got some really good ball striking stats that you just can't overlook. At that price, that's a good price. So I'm gonna roll the dice on Grillo a little bit this week.
I love it. All right, so let's move on to our tier 3 players. And with this one, we're looking, it's from that like right around $6,500 range.
You're you're below 7,000.
Below 7,000. Below 7,000. You know what? I'm not going to announce the tiers anymore, Connor. That is now your job. It's the way I wrote out the show sheet this week. It just kind of anyway. So let's go with tier 3. Let's talk.
Here we are in tier 3. Welcome to tier 3.
The joys of being live.
Oh, it's so good. Every week I still get a little nervous about it.
Me too.
So my first pick in the sub 7K range, I really took a hard look at Russell Knox. He's dead middle of the pack in a lot of the stats, but the couple of them that jumped out at me that I really liked for him this week, he's 14th in approach, shots gained approach, and he's 14th in fairways gained. So again, talking about marrying two stats together, if we're hitting our approach shots from the fairway, avoiding the penal rough, all things point to good opportunities. So he did rate out 14th overall in my model as well, which I really, really like for a guy who's at $6,100. I mean, that lets you do a ton of cool stuff with your lineups. If he's got a glaring hole, statistically, his driving distance, he's number 100 in the field. So out of a 120-man field, that's not great. But
no, it's not. I wouldn't say, but
like I said, we're gonna rely on the approach game, and I think he's got the chops to contend this week. And again, that low in salary, like he's your best option down there. I mean, by a long shot. There's a couple of guys.
And you're just looking to make the cut. That's all you need him to do. You're not asking this guy to win.
No,
even place top 10, 15.
And quite frankly, I mean, I don't know if Russell Knox is a guy that can win with this amount of talent in a field.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're not asking him to win at this price.
No, 100% I'm tracking with what you're saying. I'm more saying as a general statement, I don't know that Russell Knox is a guy that can win, period. Now, there's a couple other guys that we're going to talk about that even in this field or any other field, you'll at least have the potential. Russell Knox is probably not that guy. Russell Knox is probably, like you said, he's more your workhorse. He'll get you through the cut. You'll be really excited if he has a T20, T15.
Gotcha.
In my opinion. So moving on from there.
Shout out Scott.
What's up, buddy? So kind of a weird one that I don't know a whole ton about. I just kind of looked at his trending, how he's trending, and his stats is Antoine Rosner. Antoine Rosner is more of a Euro guy, or not. I believe he's more of a Euro guy. But anyways, the deal with him is over the last 24 rounds, he's coming out number 24 in my model. He's $6,500. He's 20th in the field shot gain approach. He's 17 in the field in opportunities gained. 52nd in the field in tee to green, so that's kind of not great. He's 17th in the field though from the key proximity range. So again, looking at, he's good in approach, he's good in the proximity range, and he's hitting it close when he does. He's 17th in the field for the opportunity gain metric, which means he's sticking these shots pretty good.
Right.
So he's a guy that I'm really more trusting the stats. I've not watched him enough to have a good feel for him. But I think he's priced appropriately for the opportunity he gives you. So I don't mind that one. I'm going to be back on Tom Hoagie again this week. Tom Tom's gonna either help me out this week or we're never playing Tom again. So Hoagie, for all the reasons I've talked about right along with him, when he gets hot, he gets nuclear hot, and he really hasn't hit that stride lately. He's 19th in the field for the shots gained approach. He's number 29 in the field for fairways gained, and then he's kind of middling for the rest of the stats we're looking at this week. He's also somehow worse than Russell Knox for driving distance at 105th in the field. So this is, again, another guy that I'm just looking at for liking the concept of what he can do on his approach. So,
gotcha.
And when we're at the bottom here, you gotta kind of find what you can. Then Luke List is somebody that I do not frequently play. Again, he's just another guy that's really, really volatile, and he's usually a little bit price prohibitive. Like, they usually price him up in the upper sixes, lower sevens. And so, and that's right where he is this week. But because of where I'm going to start my lineups, I feel good that I can have some upper six, low seven, and still top stack a bunch of 9K guys. And List has some complementary things that I like about him. So he's number 6 in the field in driving distance, number 17 in the field from the second shot proximity range we're looking at, 20th in the field tee to green, and then 29th in the field for shots gained approach. He can get hot with his putter too, which is another thing I like about him. He'll either have a completely horrible week where he makes 0 putts, or he'll make everything he looks at. So he's another guy, just volatile. Like, you know what I'm signing up for. But I do like the talent level for the price. So I think he's not a bad play either here. And then getting into some dart throws for the week. Got a couple of those for you.
So we'll go with our first dart throw that you've got for us.
Yep. So this is that's Kyle Stanley. So Kyle Stanley's been talked about on a few of the industry guys I listened to podcasts this week, and I think the deal. Did you hear my dog?
Yes.
I think the thing that with Kyle Stanley that I like is, again, he's got a good approach game, and with the
do you got a bear up on your fence or something?
Dude, my fiance had one job.
Did you see the video of the bear today?
Yes, in Colorado, the bear up on the.
Yeah, the bear up on the fence, and the woman went and pushed the bear off the fence because it was coming after her dogs.
It was like a brown bear, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Dude, I did see that.
That was wild. There are going to be so many memes, so many gifs coming from that for Bears fans. Just you wait, give it like a week.
What is a Bears fan? Those exist?
I actually, you know what? I actually know a few of them.
I know a few of them too.
And I feel bad for them every season, but maybe not this year. Anyway, but we're here to talk about golf.
Yeah, let's get back.
And barking dogs and bears.
So Kyle Stanley. So Kyle Stanley, I like the things I like about him is he's a pretty solid player from second shot, shorter distance. So I don't love where he's sitting for the longer irons. I really don't love where he is for driving distance, but he hits the fairway and he's got a good wedge and approach game. And I think that I do think that if some of these holes are turning into, a scramble a bit, or having to course manage up to 100 yards, somewhere in that range, I do think that helps his case. And at $6,100, that's a bargain price for him. And he is somebody who just potentially could pop. He could just show up and everything's firing on all cylinders and he just plays well. So Kyle Stanley, dart throw, likely to trunk slam, but also has higher upside than a lot of guys in this range.
Gotcha. Okay, so now we're starting on a new segment this week. This segment is called Dart Throw of the Week. and it's just like it sounds. Graphic courtesy of Third and Short, of course. You all know him. You all love him.
I do know and love him.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing. Great guy. Great graphics. He's great, just like everything all around. Great dude.
Everything's just great. Everything is great.
Everything is great, including Connor's dart throw pick of the week.
So this one, I have a funny story about this one. I had a buddy who plugged this guy into his lineups at the PGA Championship just because he liked his name. And he ended up making the cut, and he didn't do great, but he didn't kill the lineup either. But Byung-Hun An, who most people pronounce Benny An. So Benny An, I like approach game. I like the iron play. I like the driver when he's got it under control. He can take a class or two on putting from time to time, but I like where he's trending at. So this is a guy that's consistently priced about where he is, like in the mid to low sixes, right? He's actually made 3 out of his last 5 cuts. And of those 3 out of his last 5 cuts, he scored in excess of 50 DraftKings points, which doesn't sound like a lot. But for somebody priced at, somewhere in the neighborhood of 6,000, 6,400 to be getting that many cuts in and scoring those types of points. And the other thing, again, with him is that he can strike the hell out of the ball. Like the first round of the PGA Championship, he shot 3 under. I think he was tied for the lead or tied for second. I mean, so, in the weeks prior to that, I mean, he's posted a couple of sub 70 rounds. He's finished, at least in the lower 60th or lower. So, I mean, again, not somebody that I think is going to go out and win the tournament, but somebody who I feel pretty good could make the cut. And if he is on fire this week, I mean, T20, T15 is doable for him.
Wonderful. So guys, I think kind of there you have it. These are our picks for the week. Well, our picks. These are Connor's picks for the week. You got our thoughts on Bulleit Bourbon. If you have any thoughts on a bourbon, again, that you want us to sample, to taste, to give our thoughts on, please let us know. DM either one of us or In Between Media. Say it in the chat. We'll definitely take notes, let you know, get it on there. Connor,
or any spirit really too. I know you and I talked about doing some other stuff too. So if we got some fans sitting out there that like tequila, we can do that.
I will do tequila. I'm going to Mexico, so I love tequila. I need to drink a little bit more of it to get used to it. But tequila in Mexico is different. It's not the same as American tequila.
Whatever.
Not even close. We'll do whatever. We'll taste whatever. Except I do kind of draw the line at things like Alizé. I'm probably not going there. There will be no Mad Dog 2020 reviews on this show.
Little Boone's Farm?
No Boone's Farm. No Boone's Farm. Not doing it. This is a classy show, Connor. We're classy. We're wearing collared shirts, man.
I do have one on today.
I noticed.
We should do Busch Latte reviews for Seth.
We should. Maybe he'll watch. Seth, I love you. I know you're actually watching. So, all right. Well, for Connor, thank you for watching. Cheers to everyone watching. Guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
2 weeks.
We will see you in 2 weeks. My bad.
Until then, cheers, guys. Thanks for watching.
Until then, cheers.